Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are looking at a genuinely fascinating and honestly pretty intense case study about systemic betrayal within the Canadian public-private partnership funnel. We're going to unpack the journey of an innovator named Kyle as he navigated a prominent tech incubator, and we'll analyze some very serious claims about how his intellectual work was completely sidelined for diversity theater. It's a really compelling look at that messy intersection of technology, identity, and institutional accountability. Okay, let's dive into this. In the modern startup ecosystem, incubators hold immense power. They're essentially the gatekeepers to capital and mentorship. But what exactly happens when corporate diversity initiatives cross the line into outright exploitation? Today's case study alleges a scenario where real, tangible founder support was just completely overshadowed by institutional optics. To properly anchor Kyle's allegations here, we really need to define the broader sociological concept at play, which is performative activism. Basically, this is when superficial actions are taken by a person, or in this case, an institution, to increase their own social capital or just manage their reputation, rather than acting out of any genuine devotion to a cause. According to the source material, this concept is literally the framework for understanding the profound disconnect between the incubator's polished public face and Kyle's actual lived reality behind closed doors. All right, Section 1, Navigating the Canadian Funnel. The timeline here is absolutely crucial, right? Notice that Kyle's foundational intellectual work was well established before this incubator relationship even began. Back in late 2019, he achieved an entry in the prestigious online Encyclopedia of Integer Sequences, meaning he actually secured authorship for original mathematical sequences. By January 2020, he had a provisional patent filed. It was only after these major milestones, right during the early chaotic days of the pandemic, that Kyle was added to the New Ventures BC program. His intellectual property was already a highly tangible asset way before he ever stepped foot into this public-private partnership funnel. However, the source material alleges a stark, almost unbelievable disconnect between Kyle's actual credentials and how he was treated. I mean, despite a freshly filed patent and recognized mathematical achievements, Kyle describes being treated like a subordinate. Actually, the source explicitly uses the word peon. He alleges being utilized as a free consultant by highly capitalized financiers while the entire economy was shut down. On top of that, he faced severe gatekeeping. He noted that the incubator only put him in front of a single entity, TELUS Ventures, rather than opening up the wider network you'd naturally expect from a program like this. Moving on to Section 2, the New Ventures BC incident. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the exact phrasing. According to the source transcripts, the incubator allegedly stated directly to Kyle, "We're going to parade you around with Han as our token Indian." That is a direct quote describing an experience where a professional, academic, and entrepreneurial relationship was aggressively transformed into one centered entirely on ethnic tokenism. So why would an organization make a move like that? Well, Kyle links this behavior directly to the political climate at the time, specifically the Truth and Reconciliation initiatives in Canada. The claim here is that individuals within the institution were parading a token Indian just to project a world's good guy reputation, and in doing so attempt to avoid culpability for past institutional actions. We are neutrally reporting Kyle's perspective here, which is that the incubator was leveraging his identity purely for PR optics. Section 3. The Sequoia Misinterpretation. And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict. On one hand, you have Kyle's genuine intent, which was a deep intellectual dedication of his mathematical work to the historical figure Sequoia. On the other hand, you have the incubator's alleged response, which was stripping away all of that intellectual context and superficially interpreting the dedication as a literal justification to use him as a diversity prop. To fully grasp just how massive of a misinterpretation this is, we have to look at who Sequoia actually was. He was a 19th century Cherokee scholar and polymath who famously and completely independently created a syllabary, giving a written language and literature to his people. The source material emphasizes that Kyle dedicated his math to Sequoia as a symbol of intellectual sovereignty. It was a tribute to a fellow creator of foundational systems and a strict rejection of being infantilized by the system. So, the incubator's reaction to this thoughtful dedication? They allegedly conflated this deeply intellectual historical tribute with an excuse to just use him as a mascot. Kyle's reaction to this, quoted directly from our source material, is that it was simply racist stupidity. It really highlights the sheer absurdity of an institution looking at a complex mathematical dedication to a historical polymath and seeing absolutely nothing but a token diversity opportunity. Finally, Section 4, the cost of tokenism. The crucial point we have to take away here is the systemic damage this kind of thing causes. The cost of tokenism is just incredibly severe. First, real intellectual work, like a brand new mathematical sequence or a patent, is aggressively commodified for PR optics. Second, the genuine intent of the founder gets completely erased, replaced by performative metrics that are only designed to make the institution look good. And ultimately, innovators become entirely alienated. When optics are prioritized over actual merit, the very public-private support structures designed to build up the startup ecosystem end up betraying the talent they're supposed to be incubating. Which leaves us with this final, super vital question. Based on the case study we've unpacked today, how can the startup ecosystem move away from diversity theater and build environments of actual merit-based support? How do we build systems that respect a founder's intellectual sovereignty rather than commodifying their identity? It's a massive structural challenge that demands real accountability. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the systems around you and keep learning.